The motion editor is a special panel that allows us the ability to fine-tune any of the motion tweens we create within the timeline. This lesson will provide an overview of the motion editor. So here's a document that has a simple animation of a ball simply moving along a path using a motion tween. So when we use a motion tween and we select any of the frames for that tween, you'll notice that we have very, very simple controls here in terms of easing and so forth. The reason for that is because we have a panel called the motion editor, which by default is docked along with the timeline. And this motion editor is very robust. So let's reposition our stage here and have a look to see what sort of things are available to us in the motion editor. You can see that everything is broken down through property, value, ease, keyframe, and graph. We have a number of frames here, and we actually have our playhead that we can use to preview our animation. We have our basic timeline controls that we can also use to preview what's going on. We can center the frame if we need to, so that puts us in the center frame. We can set it to loop. We can set whatever the current frame is. So a lot of the same controls you have on the timeline. This tells us how many seconds have elapsed. And we can change the size of the graph. So if we wanted to fit more stuff in, let me expand that here. If we wanted to view details of any of the graphs, we can do that quite easily by expanding it here. We can also adjust the graph size. And I don't have enough space apparently for that to work, but we can also change the viewable frames here as well. So you can get pretty fine-tuned as far as what you're doing within the motion editor. Let's expand this a bit more. One of the drawbacks of the motion editor is just that it is so robust. You almost need an entire other screen to be able to pull it off and do stuff with it. So what I often find myself doing when using the motion editor is collapsing all of my other panels and actually making my movie fit to window so that as I expand my motion editor, I can still see what's going on my stage, but I have a lot more real estate to deal with the motion editor itself, because it is quite complex. We can see that any of the specific properties that are being tweened, we can actually have fine adjustment over here by using these specific graphs and modifying the anchor points on these graphs. We can go in and pull any of these particular paths up and down. And we can preview here how this actually affects our animation and our motion guide. Another thing we have here is the ability to apply easing. So if you remember in the properties panel, the easing was a simple in-out value. Here we can turn easing on or off, and we can also go through and choose the easing type. We can choose to have no ease whatsoever, or simple ease by default. However, down at the bottom here we have eases, which displays any of the eases we currently have assigned to this animation. So let's add another one. You can see here that we have this menu with a whole bunch of different types of eases. So let's choose bounce in. And now that we've chosen it, it appears within our ease area here. So let's drill down. And you can see that we have bounce in, and we can actually adjust the easing of that bounce to see how it works by changing these numbers here. So let's collapse that. And to any of our basic motion, let's just assign bounce in. So immediately we see that the graph, the easing graph, actually changes to show us what will happen when we perform playback now. So you can see that bounce happening, and it'll be more apparent if I actually preview it through the play controls here. So there's that bounce. And you can assign eases to particular pieces if you want to as well. So perhaps I want the X position to have a simple ease, but the Y position to ease with a bounce in. And you can see each of the frames that used to be aligned with the motion guide have actually adjusted to show us exactly where the position of this object is going to be when it tweens across the stage. So here we have basic motion, we have transformation, things like skew, X and Y, and so forth. And we also have the ability to ease color effects and filters. So the motion editor is very, very powerful. You can fine-tune any of your motion tweens in here very, very easily with a lot of control. So this lesson has been an overview of how to use the motion editor to completely control any of your motion tweens in a Flash Professional animated project.